We are Lucy and Andrea, both 3D artists currently based in London. We decided to start this podcast together as we aim to motivate and uplift creatives by sharing our knowledge and that of other designers.
So if you're passionate about growing your creative skills, staying inspired and navigating the challenges and rewards of the creative career, this is the podcast for you.
Joe Melhuish is an illustrator, animation director and 3D artist based in London. His clients include Apple, Spotify and Boiler Room, to name a few.
He creates vibrant 3D worlds full of playful, surreal characters, glossy textures, and bold forms. Each piece feels immersive, expressive, and full of visual energy.
Hello, Joe.
Hello.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, very excited.
Very excited for our first
interview.
We're really looking forward to diving into this conversation with you. And yeah, I find it really interesting how you have illustration and you've got 3D, but it's also like a little bit of VR. So how do you define your own practice?
I say that I'm a 3D artist more and more. And I make most of my work with VR, with virtual reality. I don't know if I'll continue doing that forever, but that's certainly been my thing for the last sort of 3 years. Yeah.
Cool. That's very cool. I really want to try out a bit of VR. I haven't yet.
You make it look very fun, and fluid, the process.
Yeah. I think as well, something is a lot of people assume, because I say that I make stuff in VR, that I sort of get into work every morning and then put on a headset and then I'm just like living in a VR world all the time. But like, it's probably like 10% of any project, you know. It's like the very first stage I will like build all the models and everything, and then I'm just, the rest of it is kind of normal 3D workflow with like doing all the cinema stuff and texturing, but it makes the modeling-y bit fast, which is what I like. And that is kind of fun, and it makes it kind of like rough and ready, which isn't something that you get a lot of in 3D. It's quite
right. Yeah.
People tend to go for clean because that's what the software kind of like offers you.
Exactly. Which is cool that you do a bit of the modeling in VR and then you kind of input it into C4D.
Yeah. If I'm making something not for a client, I tend to start in VR and just like draw it all out in VR. It's kind of fun and rough and ready, but obviously you have to, because my stuff is illustrative, you have to like sign off on sketches and things. So I tend to like do a drawing and send the client the drawing, and then I like have that as the background reference, like behind what I'm sculpting. I will sort of like how, like, you know, if you're like doing a painting, you have like the what your like sketch of it stuck next to it, and then you're like using that as a reference or something, or like you've got your references around you. In VR, you can like put your references floating around.
So cool.
I mean, that makes it so much more handy than trying to do like hard surface modeling and just have like a few planes and some sketches around you. In
for sure.
Way.
I find the hard surface stuff really a weird way to make like organic things anyway. I guess most people use like ZBrush, don't they, to like get an organic looking model, or like one of those sculpting Nomad. I see people using Nomad now.
Wow.
Because you've been doing some ZBrush as well, haven't you?
Yes, just a little bit. Just practicing with the kind of different brushes and stuff like that. But I really do like how manual that process feels, rather than just clicking about on cinema sometimes feels.
Because you have to try really hard to make something feel organic in cinema. It's like afterwards you do all the heavy lifting to just make it feel like it's
bunch of
handmade. Yeah.
But we were also wondering, we were seeing in your Instagram how you have a lot of lots of posters for different events, like music events and stuff like that, and we were wondering if, obviously that probably comes from your passion for DJing as well, I'm guessing, but I wanted you to kind of tell me a little bit about that.
I've just been always obsessive over like music and stuff like that, so I just like having a reason to dig around in music and find and explore new genres and whatever. So it's kind of my hobby that I've kept pure by not tainting it with it becoming my job like I've done with art, you know. It's kind of like, this is just purely for fun. And it's really nice to have something where you're like, oh, as soon as this becomes even remotely feeling like work or I don't want to do it, then I'm not interested, you know?
Yeah.
It's nice to have something like that. And for me, that's that thing. Also, I like the social element of it because people are doing events. People are like, you go somewhere to do it. It's not like art in the same sense that you're just like locked in a room doing
Right,
it.
very
You're
much
like,
by yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
It's quite
like,
lonely, really, as a profession.
yeah, it totally can be. Yeah. So there's like the whole social aspect of it. I enjoy. I love collecting music. I love thinking about and talking about the scene of music. In London and in other cities in the world. So it's kind of all of those things. And the posters for me, posters are a good format. I mean, even outside of like illustration and like graphic design, I think the stakes are low. You know, it's a one-off event. There isn't usually much money, so the amount of control that they're gonna sort of put into what you're doing is usually low, and they're just like happy to have someone.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're always over delivering with a poster, which is quite a nice feeling compared to like other projects.
For sure.
Obviously the budgets are low, but before I was doing the posters, a lot of my low budget like jobs that were like getting my name out there was like editorial stuff for like New York Times and Bloomberg and stuff like that.
Right.
But that stuff pays just the same as now as doing flyers, which to me is insane that these like huge media conglomerates have a budget the same as like a guy from Belfast who wants to put on a club night, you know? It's
for sure.
it's just crazy. But it's just, if you've got to choose one over the other, it's obvious. It's like, it's obviously, there's a lot of prestige associated with certain media organizations, but at the end of the day, you just end up drawing like pictures of accountants or like money themed things.
It's so true.
And it gets a bit tedious. Not all of them, you know. When I used to do stuff for Bloomberg, they had really great art directors there. To be fair, everywhere I've worked has had pretty decent art directors, and it's okay, but it's not sustainable to do that stuff anymore. I don't know how people do it. When I see people who are living off editorial illustration and things, I'm like, I don't know how you're functioning,
right?
Because the pay is just so terrible.
And the pay is
also
terrible
wonder that.
because of the prestige that's behind it, right? I'm guessing.
I guess they know that people will do it for that amount of money, but I also think those guys are just like bleeding money because they haven't worked out how to fully monetize themselves other than like the pay to see, because people aren't buying the physical media anymore.
Yeah, I so wonder that. I also think like when you see so many of those illustrators that are setting up like online courses, are they doing that because they need some other income streams?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But like, you've worked so hard to get to that place, and maybe you have like 50K followers, but you're still struggling. It's just it's like the tough reality of being an artist, isn't it? It's actually just really savage.
Yeah, and for sure, no art jobs are keeping up with inflation. Like it's like
no, definitely not.
The budgets I get on my jobs are the same as they were 6 years ago, but every other thing is more expensive in my life. You know,
huge.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed that. I just on the on your work for musicians and artists, like it's very clear that all your personality comes out in that, and it looks like you have so much fun with it. When you're listening to like an album or a piece of music, or does that inspire the outcome? Like, do you sit with the music to then come up with
it's
what
not
that
always
illustration
possible
is?
though. They don't always send you the music. But I tend to work with people where I already know a bit about what they've got going on. It's very rare that I don't know if it's through choice or just through circumstance that I haven't like had too many people hitting me up totally out of the blue. Like there's no frame of reference of like what they're all about. I had a couple of things like that earlier in my career, but now I tend to kind of know a bit about who they are already if they've got in touch with me. And I tend to not go for ones where there's no connection to them, just because I don't know if how they really feel about the work. I kind of like that trust element of like, oh, they probably are a fan of it, or they know what I'm about, and they haven't just like found a graphic designer on Instagram, you know, which those relationships tend to be more difficult. There's less trust.
For sure.
But I also I especially with the music stuff, I kind of think a bit about like I prefer to work maybe with people who are like in a scene where they can't afford that normally, or like there's something I find like I want to help these people out with it.
Yeah.
Not in like a charitable type way, but kind of like just this would be great if it would more people should see this thing.
It's more accessible
exactly.
then.
Yeah. Or like I believe in their like the music that they've got going on, and like I don't know how it's happened, but I've totally ended up working with a lot of like Latin artists, like but they're not even connected individually. Like I do stuff for this girl, Manuka Honey, and this guy Florentino, and Florentino's a Colombian guy from Manchester who's got this label, and I've done 2 things for him, and then I did a record cover for this guy in Ghana, and then he collaborated with these guys Denga 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 from Peru, and then I ended up doing a video for them, and then randomly a cover through Florentino's label based here, and it's like all these like weird things join up, and I've done a bunch of stuff for people in Mexico City, and as well I love doing that stuff for people in Mexico City because I like making friends in that place, and I like the community there, and the people I've worked with from Mexico City have been like super nice. I don't know. I guess there's an element of like working with people as well, where you feel like welcome in their community when you're like help, like trying to like be involved with it in some way.
Kind of like community building through your work as well.
And
just creating collaborations and relationships through your work as well.
Yeah,
That's
totally,
cool.
totally. And the more you build the community there, the more you understand what it's about, and the better job you can do with making the work as well, and understanding what they are interested in, and
cool. So how do you balance that with your own work? Like how?
Like personal work?
Yeah, no. Well, there's I guess there's personal work, then there's work, then there's these cool collaborations that are, as you said before, not always the most high paying.
Yeah, I do all of the music stuff kind of for the love of it. It's not enough money that I'm like thinking about the money. I think it's nice I'm not against doing things for free, and I do sometimes do things for free, but I feel like the relationship is always stronger when there's like a small exchange involved. Like I think sometimes when when you agree to do something for zero money, like they believe less in the thing. I don't know. It's weird. It creates a strange relationship. But I've never really had too much issue with that. But wait, what was the question again? I kind of went off.
Like how do you balance? Because there's three kind of type of works that I'm seeing. That you.
So it's been a while since I've done like a big project. I always struggle to remember. Oh yeah, I did the one that you guys wanted, this one of the flower. I forgot what it's called now. Yeah. So that was kind of a bigger-ish project. Those ones are fun. I mean, they're okay. Those kind of mid-sized projects where it's a bit of my style, but like quite heavy-handed client stuff are, I mean, they all turn out okay in the end, but it's definitely, it's a lot of work, and you're trying to like, it's difficult to know how much of yourself to put into it, and whether you should just like back off a bit and be like, actually we need to focus on, this is just the product, but you want your heart's half in it, so you kind of want it to be good in that way, and you're obviously not going to agree on what is good with everyone who's working on it. I mean, this is just the compromise that everyone does when they're working on client projects, I guess.
And do you feel like you have, because it's for a client and you're working, say, with another agency, that you have less ownership of what that end result is like, so therefore you don't feel in the same way as passionate as if it's for a musician, for example?
I think it's quite good to not feel too passionate about a big client job, though. Like, you have a distance from it, and then you don't feel like emotionally involved when they start tearing it to shreds, So it's kind of nice to have that distance.
For sure.
I almost need to look at my phone to remember the projects I've done, because it just kind of happens, and then I just stop thinking about it entirely afterwards. But to be honest, a lot of my income outside of those like mid-sized projects where it looks like my style is just working at studios like day rate freelancing, doing
Right,
3D
okay.
generalist stuff.
Mhm.
And I really enjoy doing that because
nice.
I'm totally not emotionally involved. And it's just about making it
Yeah.
look good. And it's like,
And
and
you
that's
have a
all,
whole
that's
team.
easy in compared to making something look good that you also love, you know?
Yeah, so true. Like you don't put all your eggs in that basket and get
Yeah,
burnt out as well
yeah,
from it.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the stress levels are generally much less.
For sure.
Directing is really stressful, even on a small thing. I mean, there was the one that you helped on,
Yeah,
the HP one. That was like, for me, kind of like a meltdown, the whole from start to finish. I don't know if you caught that
No,
from me on the
I absolutely
on
didn't
Slack.
catch it, but in my mind I was thinking, this is difficult. This seems like it would be hard to orchestrate because you had quite a few people on the team like doing different roles, and it was all your style, and then you were directing it.
Yeah, it was just the timeline and the budget was kind of low, so we maybe didn't have as many hands on it as we needed. But the main thing is when you're directing, it's a weird thing with animation where when you direct, you kind of do everything. But when you're directing live action, it seems like you spread the workload out more and then you're just like on set every day and you're making decisions, but you're not hands on. But here I was like sort of directing it, but then making all the assets at the same time, and also like having to like tell other people what to work on. So I'd like get to the end of the day having like designed like an environment and then like start planning in the evening for what everyone needs to do the next day, and you just like burn out super
Oh my
fast.
gosh, that is so much multitasking. Just
Yeah.
like dividing your brain into all of those little sections that you have to sort of manage.
Especially if you're a creative person, I just think that's like pretty challenging because when I was at a nursery, I was leading teams of freelancers, and it wasn't like, well, in a sense it was directing, but it wasn't like my style. And I just thought, exactly, like you start your day thinking these are the things that I need to do, but then you spend your whole day feeding back and making sure you're on top of making sure what everyone else is doing and their ideas that they're bringing to the table. And it was burnout central.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
very
And I
hard.
mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of a budget issue, but I don't know. Sometimes it always feels like the problem would be solved with more money, but maybe it just, you know, like how if you have a project and a month to do it or a week to do it, you'll just expand the amount of time it takes to fill the gaps. It's kind of like that. It's like no matter how many other people you bring in, you just end up, the scale of it just increases anyway. So you're like, oh, 5 more people, great, we can be more ambitious, and then the stress level's the same. Like
exactly, I feel like it must
so,
be that.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
how many? Because had you directed before the HP one? As
Yeah,
well?
yeah. I did. I kind of, before I had this like VR-y style, I did a lot of stuff that was a bit more maybe commercial and less personal. So I did a commercial for what they call Travel Portland, like a travel agency, and also for Cheerios. It's quite random. But that was those. Neither of those was stressful compared to this one. I'm not sure exactly what it was that made it hectic. They were very hands on. The client with like tweaking things that were on screen for like a split second. So it was kind of just getting trapped in work loops, you know, where you're like not progressing for like a week at a time because you're like changing the color of some
Oh my God, yeah.
cartoon character's shorts in the background of a scene. You're like, can we like focus on what really matters here?
I do find though that the client does kind of throw you under the bus also, and then that's difficult.
Yeah.
What
Love
else?
that.
We've got so many questions to get through. There's so much to chat about. Yeah, I guess you've kind of hit some of them just lightly, but in terms of your style, obviously it's very distinctive. And do you feel like because you have that, it opens up more opportunities for you because people know exactly what, like direct clients, for example, they know exactly what they're coming for and what they're going to get with the work that you do?
Yeah, I guess so. I haven't experienced what it's like to not have that. I guess I see it with other people a bit, and I see that they come. I always get a sense when someone's come to me and they don't know what my work is, and I'm just like, you can just get that red flaggy vibe off them, you know, and you're like, like I can tell that they're gonna be like, we love your work or whatever, and really all they've done is just like quickly scroll through they've like basically like their eyes drift out of focus and they just scrolled past like a wall of bright colors and they're like, great, and then you send them something and they're like, whoa, this is too weird, what the hell? And
that's actually interesting that you say that, because I feel like, yeah, it would be disappointing for them to be able to see all your work, which is very much on display and has been around for a while. Like, they should put the legwork in to know exactly what they're going to get.
Yeah,
even for you, that's quite disappointing that people.
It doesn't happen that
won't be
often.
like that.
Where often with those emails I get, where I can just sense that they haven't in their deck got any of my work in it or something. I'm just like, yeah, I just tend to avoid working on those jobs or like discussing those jobs. But for the most part, people come to me and they're like, they have a few examples of what I've got. It definitely makes it easy. Like, depending on the examples people put in, I can tell that a project's gonna be fun or not, because it's like, when they're really like unrelated examples, sometimes it's hard to sense what they really want. Yeah, I like, I don't know. Most of my projects are kind of okay. I'm trying to remember specific ones, like, as I'm going. Every now and again you get one and they just send some personal work and they're like, what you do here is perfect, and you sort of think, great, this is going to be easy. But then often as well, it's hard to like recreate something you did in the past. You were in a certain headspace when you made it, and then they're like, you made it 3 years ago, and they're like, we want something just like this, and you're kind of like, how did I do that? Like, you're looking at it like, wow, how did I get this effect?
Yeah,
like,
evolved since then. Maybe now you're adding like this type of texture or whatever. So
but yeah, I think that's something I need to relax into a bit. I do feel like an internal like pressure, not pressure, but like I want every project to push things in a new direction, but people don't want me to do that. They're like, no, we want you to like make the thing that you usually make. And I'm like, to get something out of it, I feel like, I'm going to try this new thing.
But what would be more fun for you?
Yeah, like I like doing something that builds on the last thing I did every time. But yeah, I've had a few things when they've pushed back and I've been disappointed initially, and then it's really hard to tell in the moment, isn't it? When you're like working on something, it feels annoying to be told no on something that you've made, but then months pass and I look back and I'm like, maybe they were right. And yeah, I think as well, I would probably feel less stressed if I would just be content recreating things that I've done in the past for jobs. And then this is what I'm trying to do recently with like setting work and my own work, is try and compartmentalize my energy to personal work. There I can experiment. Client work, there's no need to keep pushing it unless...
That's super interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because that kind of relieves the pressure of trying to experiment too much when you're on client stuff, which, as you said, they come to you for that exact thing that you make, but it gives you room for just experimenting and having fun on the personal projects. And then I'm guessing once you have, it's like a vicious circle, like once you have the personal project come out, maybe you get more clients that come to you for that project.
Yeah, for sure.
I also feel like clients only trust what they've seen before, and they don't trust the newness, so they get scared of it, and they have to see that it's been out there in the wild for a bit for them to be like, oh, people respond well to this, then we can do that. And then like you're saying, you can do the experimental stuff.
No, I totally agree.
Work. But I mean, saying that, you did you did say that you experimented with stop motion VR for that. But it's cool that you did some experimental work as part of the client project.
Yeah, that was the nightmare element of that. Yeah. So I had been wanting to do something with VR that was like more like animation, like animating in VR. And there's I think Yonk, do you know Yonk?
Yeah.
They had been doing a bit of it, so I could see that it was like possible. And this guy, Saint Vulture, his name is, on Instagram, also does like all this like stop motion, but like each frame is sculpted. And I felt like this was one of those, actually, do you know what? This was one of those projects where I kind of took a gamble on the red flag of the initial email, where it was like, they came with a bunch of references of my work that were like super bright, crazy colors. And then it was like I don't know if you would call them an agency. They're like a brand partnership media company called, I've forgotten their name. But anyway, they were who approached me and they were like, we're doing collaboration with... I looked at brand and I was like, this feels worlds away from like what my work looks like. So I was very carefully like, are you sure like this is going to work? Like, to me, it feels like a leap, but I just want to know that they really do want to push how they're selling themselves into this world. And they were like, yeah, totally. They're on board. They love the work. I was like, okay, like, let's go then. And I sent some style frames and it all got signed off. But they were like, oh, we need to mute the colors and this and that. And it's like, okay, it's kind of got to be a world between mine and theirs. But as it went on, it did transpire that really what they wanted was something not much like what I usually do, which is why that project feels, I would say, different to my other work. And I kind of took another gamble on it with doing this stop motion-y effect, which I think worked well, and I would like to do it in other projects, but the gamble was it's really hard to change once you've done it. So I was very strict on like sign-off dates and things. And I was like, this is what it's going to look like. Is everyone happy with it? And they were like, no notes. And that to me is always like, what?
Like, it's rogue.
Yeah, who's not seen it? Like, who's gonna? And then so like days from the deadline, they were like, oh, we were thinking maybe the flower could be like ultra realistic and like a different design. And it was like,
and you were like, no.
And I kind of like had a meltdown because I was like coming to the end of the project. Yeah. You know, you're like mentally starting to like clock out, and it's like it's going to go on for a lot longer. So
did it? So did you have to change flower?
Well, I already had a project booked in after, so I had to do both at the same time.
Oof, boy.
Was it not an option then to be like, no?
Well, not really. It was. I don't want to get too much into it, but I kind of messed. I think I should have been stricter about like the payment structure of it, but I felt suddenly tense that they could start being like, you have to make these changes. And I was like, I didn't really have like a platform to fight on or something, you know. It was like, I kind of just wanted to get it over and done with. I don't think any one person was to blame, which is like often the case, and that's how these things are designed. But it was just a bit of a nightmare, and I'd kind of dug my own grave slightly with with some of the decisions I'd made, especially it being really tough to change. But we came up with a compromise, and it wasn't quite as bad. But I think the communication was off. Yeah, so it was a bit of a mess.
It's funny because you never see that. Like you just, you literally never see that. The end result looks great, and it does feel like it comes from you, and it does feel experimental. Obviously, it's definitely a toned down version of what you would normally make, but it's very satisfying to see that you did try out the stop motion.
Yeah,
but you definitely.
There was a few things I did in there as well that I like. For example, the clouds in it are like hairy, and I hadn't really done much with hair. There's also they wanted their clothes in it to be like really realistic. So I worked with this amazing freelancer guy who's like a Marvelous and Houdini dude.
It looked amazing.
And he did a really good job of it, but they were not very happy with it. So there was just lots of tweaking the clothes. There was some technical issues with Redshift and Houdini and stuff that ended up taking up like 2 weekends to fix. And you're kind of like, oh man, I thought this job was going to be easy. Like
it always seems that, but it's actually bringing me a lot of comfort that you also go through all of this shit as well.
Yeah. It's just amazing how much goes wrong with 3D, really, isn't it? It's unpredictable.
I really don't know. I also think that's a very hard one to then budget when you get direct clients, because you never know what is going to go wrong, and you can't put that in the quote.
You have to build contingency, but they don't. Yeah, you have to build the contingency, and then they don't understand why you need all this extra money for days that don't have plans of action in, and it's like something's going to go wrong. It just is. But then you sell that to someone, and they're like, "Why are you so bad at your job? You expect everything to go wrong?" And it's like, "No, it just will. It won't be my fault. I promise.
Yeah,
it will be Maxon's fault."
Oh man,
yeah, for sure. No, Well, that project ended up looking really cool, and it's definitely
Yeah,
it's
I
on
think
your
it's okay
site.
in the end. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like after a bit of separation, like you're just kind of burned out by the end of a lot of these directing ones.
Yeah.
Like I do love doing illustration projects for that reason, that it doesn't. I find it's just simple. It's like illustration compared, and you can just bust stuff out, and often it has the same impact like a still image as like something that animates. But
Sure.
it's about, I don't know. But I do like directing. I like the storytelling element of it,
Yeah, for sure.
and I like working with musicians. I work with these guys, Sounds Like These, and they're just insanely good. It's always like the most fun part of the project. I don't know if you find that, where it's like you've done the work and then it's like you kind of hate it at this point, and then you send it away and it comes back like with a shiny lick of paint, and it's like
Nice.
suddenly it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
on it and you're like,
Comes
oh
together.
cool.
It has a new lease of life.
Yeah. And it feels like it's no longer just your thing. It's like someone else's take on it is there, and it's kind of like, it feels nice.
You can almost see it from a different pair of eyes then, and you don't feel as close to it and hate it.
Yeah.
At the very end.
That's it, for sure.
So that project really worked out for you in the end. But are there some that maybe didn't and haven't made it to your site or haven't made it to Instagram, for example?
It's hard to say. No. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't post. For a while, I was really like anti-posting any of my commercial work on
Oh, really?
Instagram, and I did that for like a year and a half whilst I got into VR, and I would like do projects for Coca-Cola or whoever and like this stuff, and I was like, I just don't want to post any of that because I want people to arrive on my Instagram and be like, not just be bombarded with like brands.
Right.
Mm.
But I wasn't thinking in a sense of getting work. I was just thinking in a sense of, this is like, I want it to be my work and I'm still getting work. And then it started to like slow down a bit. And I suddenly was like, okay, I'm just going to post all that. Like, what was I thinking? I need to pay rent. So I did end up posting a lot of that. I'm trying to think. The only projects I don't post are the ones where I'm not allowed to. Like, for example, like I do a few things here and they don't let you post. I haven't had too many where it's like a total disaster, to be honest. There was some where I just felt like earlier in my career, like what you said, where it's like they've come to you and they don't really know what you do that much. They just like the colors. And so I did one for years ago and they just changed. I presented them with what in my mind was like loads of good ideas, and they ended up just picking their ideas that they had told me to do and it was like, okay, fine. But I gave them so much choice of stuff I thought was really fun, and then every stage of it they basically like brought the character designs and everything more and more close to like their brand thing. So it is at some point I was like, okay, they just don't care that
they don't want
my
thinking.
tone of voice in there at all. Like they just want brand assets in their style, but they hadn't sold it to me that way, so it was frustrating. Like if that had been from the outset, hey, we just want this stuff that looks like our brand, can you help us? Then it would have been fine. But it was like the trick of like, we love what you do, so then you would get invested in it, and they're like,
I'm putting so much extra time in, I imagine, to come up with all these ideas when you could have just really not done that.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what about the projects that you freelance for? Like when you're freelancing for studios and stuff like that, do they make their way into your site or something?
No, not really. I just do them and like I've just like the last few months I've been doing a few days a week for Studio Dunbar in Amsterdam, in Holland, and it's just been like visualization, like animation concepting and things like that. And I just like doing that stuff because I find it's like my skill set. I'm able to do it. I don't have to think about like myself. It's just do it, and you work with nice people who are friendly, and you get paid by the day, and it's like no stress. And sometimes I'm like, that would be perfect if I could do like 2 or 3 days a week in a studio, like, and then I don't have to worry about doing the halfway projects where you're kind of put your style in and then it gets killed off. but yeah, I like doing that stuff now and again. I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but it's good. And I like the social element of it. I feel a lot of my projects aren't that social, because you're just illustrating
alone with PC.
Yeah.
It's actually so nice to be working with a team.
Definitely.
Because like for us anyway, for me, I think for both of us, we went freelance, so we also had time for our own work.
Yeah.
And it is like, you just don't get that time. If you're working full time in an agency, it is great, but you just don't have any capacity to think about anything else. Have any ideas, like have any breathing room.
That's true.
So it's trying to get the balance of like, having time for personal stuff and developing that, and then getting paid.
I guess that was what was quite nice. It was about, I know what you mean about like not having capacity to think about, especially if you're doing highly creative things in your day job. Your creativity is like can burn out a bit. You're like problem solving, and it like teaches you to think in a specific way about creativity. If you're expressing yourself, every idea is good, So I have noticed that sometimes, even when I'm making my own work, I'll like veto something that I instinctively put in because I'm like, oh, it's not commercial. And then I'll catch myself doing it and be like, oh no, I like it more, that it's kind of challenging in some way.
That's really interesting.
And that's the point of doing that work. But my first job, like I never worked full time at an agency. Like before I started doing illustration full time and animation full time, I worked at a children's book company, doing like, it was kind of creative. It was creative. I was doing like, a lot of their advertising and like I was doing a lot of photography with them randomly. We had like a photo studio, and I was doing creative stuff, but it was like for kids and for parents, and it was so removed from what I wanted to do in my work that I found it really. I would come away from the end of like a day of being at work, and then I would be like wanting to do my ideas, and so I was spending all my free time just doing whatever I wanted to do without any care of anything, and so I actually found that
nice.
Like in my spare time, I think my productivity has never been higher. Like I would like get home, set up my laptop and just like start making stuff, and there was like nothing to lose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't do that now. I get to the end of the day and I just want to chill.
Fuck out. Yeah.
Oh wow. That was literally
really
because of because it wasn't that creatively, I don't know.
It was kind of a
nurturing
different
for you.
kind of creativity, We did some really fun stuff at that company, and I learned a lot about, but I didn't learn any like hard skills like in animation or design that much. I mean, I'm understating it slightly, but like, it wasn't like being in an animation studio or being in a design studio where you're like really taught how to be a professional like animator or whatever. It was like everyone was just doing whatever. It was kind of it was like a startup company, and it grew really fast. So we all found ourselves like basically like unexperienced people having big budgets to do stuff with and just making it up to an extent.
Right.
Like I joined the company doing like, what's it called? Customer service as like a job after uni, because I was like, I was working in Urban Outfitters before then, making £6 an hour, which is terrible, and I was like living in stress. And they were like, "Oh, we'll pay you £15 an hour to answer emails." And I was like, "Okay, great." And then I can spend my free time doing my art. And then the company, so I was the first employee. It was 4 guys that started it. A year later, there was like 100 people working there. It grew super fast. And they bought a studio. Well, they rented a studio that was attached to the side of where Boiler Room is on Pritchard's Road. And we shared a roof with Boiler Room, and it was just a very like fun, creative energy in the offices. And it was kind of a crazy company. We bought like a big photo studio and nice cameras, and
sounds great.
It was
for a
fun.
first job to start,
it
just
was
not service and then go to learn.
I'm kind of thankful. Yeah, I'm kind of thankful for that opportunity. It was quite crazy, and the guys who run it, I'm still kind of friends with some of them, and they've done really well. I think they sold actually recently and got lots of money.
Oh, I mean, what a dream!
Nice.
Well, I was actually going to ask, when did you first discover 3D?
The third dimension.
When did you discover the third dimension? And because you studied illustration, so you already kind of knew the path that you wanted to go down early on. But
yeah, so when I studied illustration, at uni I never used 3D. It wasn't super accessible. I think really the only other person who I knew who was doing like 3D illustration then was Jack Sachs.
He was the guy, wasn't he?
He was the guy. Yeah, my style was like at the end of university when I graduated, it was like airbrush artwork I was doing, but it wasn't like really airbrushed. It was like vector airbrush, kind of like 80s sort of vibes was my work. And then some of it, and then I was drawing a lot of like how my style would be now, where it's like people and stuff like that. And then the airbrush stuff was like I was doing kind of techie looking things. There was like the first sort of main project I did in my spare time. This was when I was working at Urban Outfitters. Was they're like pocket knives that like splay out into like loads of weird stuff like vapes, and it was like these high tech things, and this is like what I dedicated my time to, and each one took me like a month. So I made like 10 or 11, so it took me like a full year to make them all. I was literally doing it on the train, like on my MacBook, like on the way to like Urban Outfitters.
We should put them alongside this episode.
Yeah. But they were like, it's nice that did a feature on them, and
I think I've seen them. Yeah.
And there was but it kind of led to nothing. It was it was almost like a disappointment. It was good that it got featured, and like some really big like Instagram, do you know that Love What's page? They like posted some of them but didn't tag me, and it was like, it felt like lots of things were happening, and they have like 10 million followers or something. It was just crazy. But like it didn't lead to anything. And then so I was just kind of like, okay, I think I kind of got this job at this kids book company, and then my friend Milo, who I was living with at the time, started working at Animade, the animation studio, and they was playing more with 3D. And there was a guy there, Russ, who was showing Milo a bunch of 3D stuff. And then I kind of got interested in it through seeing what was possible.
How old were you then?
23, I want to say 22, maybe. Yeah, it's hard to know actually how old you forget, because when you feel so old when you graduate, don't you? And you're actually like 21.
So fresh face, just like
so I started playing around with it around then, I guess, but I was still doing like lots of experimenting loads with my style and doing like lots of vectory things and paintings. I think I did like some murals for a while with like wheat paste. It was just all over the shop. And then I started doing more and more 3D stuff and I was getting actually jobs in 3D around that time. I did some record covers. I did one for this rapper, Stefflon Don. It was supposed to be for Azealia Banks, and then she started being racist towards Zayn Malik, and the label dropped her.
Oh my god!
Wow!
And then
dropping the gossip.
Yeah, and then I did some stuff for Ninja Tune. It was like odd things, but every project was really stressful because I didn't really know how to do 3D, and there was like hardly any YouTube resources and stuff.
That's true.
I remember like rendering someone's album cover, and I didn't know that like more polygons would like make the render take longer. And it was my work computer, so I was like rendering it and couldn't shut it because I was scared, and it was like a 24-hour render for one image.
Oh no!
And I like took it to work with my laptop open. Like I was like walking down the street like, mustn't close this.
Wow.
So it was kind of like I was like learning but slowly to do it. And then basically I'd been at this job. I think the first job I did in 3D that like kicked off was I'd been making all this stuff with worms. It was like videos just to play with my style in 3D of like hands rolling up worms into joints. There's one where someone like crushes up a worm on my table and then like snorts it like a line of cocaine, and then the worm is like going up her nose. And those were like,
how have I not seen this?
And then this girl, Crystal, who works at the time, I knew her through a friend, Steve, and they were part of this scene of like LA people doing 3D. And they were really the other people most inspiring me who were doing 3D work at that time that was very like cartoonish and like humorous and not like techie, you know. It was like fun and full of character and stuff. And so Crystal was commissioning an episode of Off the Air for Adult Swim, and she was like, do you want to pitch on this episode we're doing? And I mean, at that time I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, so I have to make this amazing. And my job, the kids book company, Tao, who worked there, was like super nice and like let me have a month off to make it.
Oh wow.
Wow.
So nice.
And I just like busted it out in a month. And that was like the beginning of it, really, because then that got like, back in the time when Vimeo was a thing, it got like a staff pick, and then I suddenly started getting loads of work just through that film that I made.
That would do a lot. Like I remember Vimeo being huge with the staff pick.
Back then, if you get a staff pick, it immediately goes to like 200k views and stuff.
Yeah, what's the equivalent now? Is it like on Behance or something?
It's like your TikTok reel goes viral.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Did you ever? I used to get a lot of inspo, but it wasn't going to get you loads of clients. On Short of the Week, did you ever go on that website? Oh, it was so cute.
Really?
But yeah, it's like all the good content went there, but like the Vimeo staff picks would go there, but yeah, it's a bit more low key.
Yeah, it was a kind of a fun time where like you could blow up on a blog or something like that, but now everything feels very contained to social media, doesn't it? Like if you're blowing up, and then social media favors not the work itself, but like the things around the work, like making tutorials or like it's kind of weird. It's like the people are more important than the work sometimes, in terms of what goes viral.
So true. Yeah. So true.
But you don't need to go viral, I don't think, now.
No. It feels like a very organic process for you to have got into 3D.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I sort of don't always love making it. That was kind of why I got into the VR. I kind of like the end part of the project where it's all coming together, but like there's always a middle part where it just feels like, especially before I did the VR stuff, where I just felt like I'm spending all my time like clicking around. That's what I like doing, is drawing. And I was like, how have I come strayed so far from the truth, you know? Like, so VR kind of brought it back a bit. It was like, now I can draw and make funny marks on the page and express myself more easily. Yeah,
definitely. I remember the very first time that I opened Cinema and made something, and it was like I imported an illustration that I'd drawn, that I'd sketched, and I just extruded it. And I thought, I was like, this is fucking cool.
But it's...
I still got it, and I look at it sometimes and just smile. The simplicity, I have to send it to the simplicity of it, and just how instantly excited I was to see an extruded illustration.
I love it.
And I'd be like, oh, I can turn
but
around.
But it is exciting, because it is exciting. Suddenly you can turn it around, then you can lighten. It's the very beginning of...
Yeah, and it wasn't even lit. That was the best part. It was ugly as fuck. It wasn't even lit. I was just like, wow, I extruded a spline.
Straight to my portfolio.
Yeah, straight on the website. Skills 3D.
3D artist.
Yeah.
Hi, me.
Love that.
But I actually remember my first time ever using 3D software was when I was like a kid. I was like really into making animations as a kid. Like on PowerPoint, you could set the set the time of a frame to 0.001 seconds. So then it would just autoplay all the slides, and then you move like the little green bean. Do you remember green beans? They're like the clip art bean.
Okay.
They're like.
You made animations on PowerPoint. Holy shit.
And then you would play, and then you could also nest sounds in the slides. And so it would just go, and it would just be like
so funny.
Stop motion, basically. So each frame you move it a little bit, and then go duplicate frame, twist it, duplicate frame, and then you can make whole storylines like what I do with my friends.
Exploit that fucking PowerPoint. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then and then because I was getting into it, I think my dad was like, "Oh, he's clearly really having fun up there in his room." And so he was like, he bought me like a education version of Flash, which I think back then I remember was £99 for Flash MX education version. And also I got like on 3D World magazine, I got like a free version of 3ds Max with a tutorial inside on how to make like various robots from Star Wars. and you couldn't save. So you like, and it also, my computer was like didn't have a graphics
You
card or
couldn't
anything.
save on 3DS Max.
You couldn't save because it was the trial version.
Oh,
and so I would like spend an afternoon like building a Star Wars robot in 3D, and it was like basically crashing. Just
I was
going to
say, hopefully it didn't crash.
And you couldn't render either. I would just build it in the viewport and then like rotate around it and then close it and it'd be gone forever. But it was just like
but maybe that's a good way to just keep moving on.
Yeah. It was just like enjoying the process.
Yeah. But that's so cool.
Yeah.
So you were quite young to 3D, I guess, in that sense then.
Yes.
In terms of
but I didn't really know what I was doing with it at that point. I was just like, it was just another tool. I certainly didn't think about it ever being a job. I think I found it too hard, and I was like, I don't like this. It's maybe my main takeaway.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I was just like, I don't care about making these strange things. I couldn't imagine beyond doing the tutorials at that time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I didn't know you could animate in it either. It was just like, follow the tutorial, delete.
It was so funny. Wait, so you did that, then you went into more illustration, and then it somehow just
like
went
I left
back
all
to
that
3D.
behind. Yeah, I think there was a point, I guess, where I was like, oh, I was doing a lot of very graphic design adjacent-y design, this 80s airbrush stuff, and I was like, some of the humor and soul of what I used to do when I was young and just like making art for fun has gone, and I want to bring that back. And then animation, like 3D animation, felt like a way to be funny. Like those worms that I did, I was like, this is on the right track because it's like making me laugh, and I'm like, therefore I'm having fun making it.
That's actually a really good point to kind of keep that in mind. I sometimes forget because I get so, I don't know, into the technical side of things that I just forget to actually have fun. And actually sometimes I don't have fun.
Sometimes I don't
on the weekends.
Okay.
And I'm like, there's this personal project I started and I have to bloody finish it. So, and I don't want to.
I especially think a personal project needs to be fun.
Thing.
Otherwise, why are you doing it? I mean, it's just purely to get work, isn't it? And then it's like,
exactly. That's what I used to do. Now I'm definitely trying to make it a bit more manual and stuff, which I enjoy.
Yeah. I'm doing a personal project at the moment, which I've been showing you, and you're keeping me motivated to actually
I can't wait to see it.
Keep finishing with it. And I'm like, what you said, your piece of advice, which was to never start another personal project until you finish the last one, is so hard to do.
It's so hard, but it's also like, don't take my word for it, because also sometimes you just do need a rest from that thing, like sometimes you just need, I don't know, maybe a quick personal project in between, like not a full on, because your personal project is kind of like mine in general in terms of like, it's quite long. It's like
long.
You go full on, you're like, I'm going to make this amazing thing. It's going to last 20 minutes. I don't know. Not that long, but it's going to be.
Yeah. But it's also like, I'm so stubborn. If I say to myself, I have to do this personal project, then I instantly don't want to do it anymore, and then I jump on something else.
Yeah.
And I can never it's like I'm having a mental games with myself.
Your personal projects are more like long, big things, are they?
They're not really, not even too big. Like this one maybe is like 20 seconds. It's not that big, but this one it also involves collaborating with a 2D illustrator, so it's just animator, so it's also bringing more people on board to make it happen. And then it just requires pitching your idea, and then it turns into work. But this week I had a breakthrough because I brought back the funny again, like you were saying. If you're having fun and your project is making you laugh, you've got that incentive to keep going in the driver. But it can sometimes just become really like a chore. It can become tiresome, can't it? And then the new idea is more exciting than finishing the last one. So
always
that's the battle.
That's the balance.
Yeah, I guess you've already touched on a few of these, but I was going to ask about when you're working with direct clients and kind of putting a quote together. Do you find that quite difficult? Because obviously 3D, the workflow is sometimes unpredictable, and how much time you can spend is also a bit unpredictable. And then you always end up going over budget because you love what you do.
It is hard. It's a tough one. I think probably, I mean, people who are like more established than me sometimes hit me up and are like, how do you charge? And I don't think you ever get the answer, because it's also shifting all the time as well. And you don't have the knowledge of like, you don't know what they're coming to you with. And But I would say my general rule is it's very rare that you've over like given a price that's too high that would like ruin the job. You're always better off pitching higher than you think.
Yeah.
And then them saying, well, that's not what we wanted. What about this? It's really hard, isn't it? Because you sometimes compromise and then you feel like afterwards, like maybe they played you a bit or something because you don't know how good a negotiator they are. And they always come to you with this innocent kind of vibe of like, oh, we don't know. And then suddenly you're like, wait, why have I accepted doing this job for that amount of money? And I was like, are they playing dumb or are they actually like, is this like 4D chess? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But I do also sometimes think people don't understand the 3D workflow and the cost of it.
Yeah.
Like I had some client, like a direct client asked me about doing a short film for a skincare product. And they were like, it's going to be 30 seconds long. We don't have anything model, like we'd have to model it, all of that sort of stuff. And they were like, can you just give us a ballpark figure?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't know. You haven't given me anything. I don't have a story. Like there was not much to hold on to apart from the fact that it was going to be 30 seconds, but even that was up in the air.
You need to get information.
You need a little bit more.
Straight up asking for a budget. Have you guys done that?
Yeah. I always start with that. I try and phrase it a bit like, look, I can put together some prices and maybe like 2 levels with like different levels of like animation and like different levels of stuff going on. But if you have a budget, it's just going to save us both time because I don't know if this is all going to be out of your whatever. It's usually they have something, but sometimes they don't. And at that point, I tend to go a lot higher than I think I should just to sort of, but they haven't met me halfway of the budget, so I shouldn't meet them halfway on pushing it down. And you never know how much money they've got. It could be crazy. So you do it and then they're like, oh, that's too much. And then you go, okay, what do you really have? And then they'll always tell you what they were actually thinking.
So it's always going to...
Yeah, but they do find, sorry to interrupt but I do find that they want to put it on you.
Yeah,
first.
of course.
So it's literally that little battle of who's going to say it first.
Yeah, and then I feel like it makes you undervalue yourself and underprice because they've put it on you first.
The general maths I do to work it out, if I'm not sure, is I work out what my role is doing it. If I'm directing or if there's assets made, if I'm just like how heavy the lifting will be, then I think of a day rate for that. I make a schedule and then I do it by the day rate in the schedule, and then I charge a percentage for how they want to use it. So if they want it for a year, then it's less than if they want in perpetuity. And I don't know, I kind of make up the percentages a bit, but I try and keep them like reasonable. And then that gives you at least some number to start with, where you're like, I will be paid for every day I work on this project, and they will be buying a certain amount of rights and stuff. That's like generally how I start with the first figure. But then if they're like a mega company, sometimes I just be like, well, they probably expect to pay more than my normal day rate. So I'll be like, okay, but then it doesn't seem to matter. Like I've done a job for like jobs for McDonald's would have come to me like, oh, but we're just doing a tiny little project. And like, it's like, what do you mean a tiny project? Like one of them, you got billions of pounds. It's like, it's like nothing. Like, what I'm asking for is like barely even your bonus. Like, do you know what I mean? If you want to get more advanced with it, you can start doing contracts that have like renewing rights and things, and that's a good way to get like paid later. Not everyone offers that, but certainly if you tell someone the price and they only have it for a year and then they want to run the campaign again, it's good to like put it in the contract that they would have to pay you again to run it.
That's interesting.
Which has happened. I've like got money from doing that, but it's not something I've successfully upsold, if you know what I mean. Like they've come to me and then there's been jobs I've done where I get paid again the following year because they've run it again, but they've told me that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
That's really good. Yeah,
that's interesting.
I also feel like a lot of it is, in my mind anyway, is to keep a good relationship. So over deliver, lower your rate at the beginning, for example, to get more work in the future. But I'm not sure if that always works.
I don't know if it works because I don't think they
don't
I don't think they care.
Yeah,
Like-
I know, and I need to stop that for
yeah.
myself.
No, I think
And-
that's tempting to do though, and I'm sure, I'm certain I've done that as well throughout my career for sure. It comes from at least for me, worrying about being able to deliver the project, like to the it's a imposter syndrome thing of the work you're going to do, and then you're like, the stakes are higher if I charge more somehow.
Yeah, no,
and then
true.
you feel the pressure of it, but actually it doesn't change anything for anyone, and you should just charge. The industry is full of people who don't know what they're doing that charge double, and and so why should I punish myself? It's like no one knows what they're doing in their jobs. Everyone's trying something for the first time when they start on I guess the thing with our work is every project is such a unique challenge that you feel like, oh, there's a new thing I'm going to try. But that's also what we're good at, is learning on the
It's
job.
part of it,
Yeah.
And when you were saying about you kind of calculate how many days you think you're going to be on the project, but we all know that they always kind of end up being a bit longer.
Yeah.
How do you kind of budget for that?
Yeah. You just have to
add a few days
these
on.
Are all things. This is
weeks.
Like advice I'm giving that I don't always live by as well.
Yeah.
Like, you should put in extra contingency. It depends on how many new things you think you're going to try on it.
Yeah.
You're just kind of gambling on what's going to happen slightly.
Yeah.
And you say all this and you're like, okay, I've put all the contingency in with the deadlines and stuff. And then they say, we can't afford it. And then you just have to take it out because otherwise you won't get the job. So, and then that's when I feel like sometimes you're like, oh, why did I concede on that? And later on, suddenly when the project does need to extend, suddenly they have some more money from somewhere. And it's like, oh, you didn't have that earlier when I wanted to plan this out, and now it's messy because we didn't get everything right in the way I proposed we should. But this happens, I think, with every kind of project ever in any industry. It's not unique to animation. It's like the amount of like construction things you hear of where it's like, oh, it's overrun by 25 years or something. It's like, do you know what I mean?
I'm glad we're not in that.
Yeah, literally.
I just think, there's just unforeseeable things, and the best thing you can do is try and protect yourself from it. But I don't know how you avoid it.
But that's why I also think with us, we're so vulnerable as just individuals. You haven't really got any backing, have you? You're just the individual artist with maybe your own contract that they have to sign. But apart from that, there's no defenses.
Yeah, it's true. I used to have an agent, and they were good at sorting all that stuff. And it did take a lot of stress out of things to having them, because they weren't just an agent, they're a production company as well. So I mean, when you worked on the HP thing, it was also a Strange Beast running stuff and having a producer, and you do have they fight your corner, which is quite nice, and you don't have to be involved in it. And then they're like, we've managed to secure this budget. Sometimes I feel a bit like panicky when someone else is talking on my behalf and saying numbers, and I'm like, oh, don't scare them away, like I need the job actually. Like, and they'll be like, fuck them, like, no, there's Charles and Triple, and you're like, I would have done it for half of that, and then I would have a job, and they might go with someone else now, and you're like, please don't ruin this for me. Like, you have to trust them.
And then most of the time I'm sure it works out though, hey?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that I did tons and tons of jobs with Strange Beasts, but most of the time they got a budget probably higher than I would have been able to get. So that's good. It's about to get spicy.
Yeah.
Who do you hate the most?
Actually, straight to that one then.
I guess what are your main pet peeves with the industry?
Oh man, I mean, to be honest, like,
he has.
It's hard because I don't like, a bunch of stuff annoys me, but I also don't really have like a solution to it. So it's just like stuff like not being paid properly for your time, or like lack of communication. Bad communication is like the number one thing. I also middleman type organizations are obviously really frustrating, where you can't speak to the client directly or understand, or the worst thing is not knowing which of your words are being communicated. So you tell someone a problem and they're like, don't worry, we'll tell the client that, but you have no idea what they're telling them. And this was something that was frustrating about that Loro Piano one was I strongly felt that when the feedback came back, that potentially the client hadn't been shown some of my stuff. And I would say to them, did you definitely show them? They say, yeah. And you have to just take it at face value. But in your mind, you're like doubting it. So you're already kind of frustrated because you haven't had the chance to explain yourself how you want. I do think so. For that reason, it's like communication is a massive part of it. It's hard because I have pet peeves as well that I would like to talk about, but there was people who are like good people, but who are just like I feel that have mishandled like the project, and I'd like them, so I don't want to like throw people under the bus.
Definitely.
But another thing that is obviously frustrating is when someone comes to you and they want you to bring your vision to their organization or their brand or something, but they don't commit to it. Like they don't see it through. So maybe they get cold feet about something that you've done. So they end up changing things between you and it coming out. And that's just like so frustrating because you just think it was all a waste of time. Like, why did you even get me to do that stuff? Like I could have taken on another job, you know, like that stuff's super annoying. I don't know how much that happens to other people, but yeah, that's been my most recent frustration, is where like you've come in and you're like, I'm going to art direct this thing and it's going to be a great portfolio thing, and then it's been sort of sabotaged in the middle stage, and then you just think, well, it was kind of pointless then.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So
me as well,
yeah. And I also think it's a tactic to get you, well, it's not always that way, but sometimes can be a tactic to get you really excited and get you on board, but then
I've
just to
that,
have that watered down in the end. But then I also think clients get scared of anything that's just pushing it outside of their comfort zone as well. So then
to be fair, it hasn't been a case of comfort zone stuff. It's just been a case of like changing direction on things without seeking any kind of like just really avoiding specifically talking about the specific projects, but like just changing, making new design decisions that are not really based on anything. You know, you put thought into it, you put thought into their audience, and all this stuff, and it's all things that have meaningful decisions, only for a lack of art direction to make it all sort of fall apart on the other side. And it's kind of like it's annoying. What shame, I think it's when that happens to me, sometimes I take it as a lesson to I'm trying to work out what lesson to take from it, which is either to have stricter rules about like using the work and changing stuff that you get them to like agree to more formally, or it's just stepping back from that stuff and say, if there's a chance you're going to change it, I'm just going to not get involved in it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll just hand over the certain elements of the project. If you don't actually want me to do that stuff, design direction, things like that, I'll just do the bit that you definitely are going to use. So I guess it's a communication thing, but it's frustrating when something comes out and it's got your work on it and people can see by looking at it that it's you, but then it's like ugly because some other parts of it have been changed and people assume you did it. I think that's the thing that's painful. It's like someone sees something bad out in the wild and they go, oh, like he hasn't done a good job of doing that. People assume it's you.
And it's going to be all from you. Yeah.
Oh wow. I guess one of the downsides to having such a distinct style, maybe everyone can see that
exactly.
was you.
yeah. But on the flip side of that, it's so nice when you like hand over something and they handle it really well and they like bring it all together and the art direction is really good. Because that's the thing, when you do an illustration, you know, really they'll tell you how it's going to live, in what environment, like how it's going to be framed and all this, but they don't stick to that always. So it's nice when they do, and that's why I love working with I like working more with like a good design agency or like when there's a strong in-house team you get the sense they're going to handle it properly. But sometimes you work with smaller clients and they don't have the infrastructure, or they don't actually have art directors in their team. They just have like a design team with no direction, and then suddenly everything starts looking weird. They don't commit to anything in particular. They change the style out of like cautiousness as it's going. And I've had things where I send them all the fonts to use with the project and how it should be laid out, and then they just get like an in-house junior person to completely redesign it, and you're like, what the hell?
Experience some of that full-time work where they just bring in some random other design agency that kind of manage it, but again, they don't really have like a solid art director or creative director. They just has this trusty guy that thinks that they know best, so then it all gets kind of butchered.
and diluted.
I
mean, it goes to show how valuable like a good creative director is.
Absolutely.
It's like
and one creative direction as opposed to multiple people with different directions trying to kind of round them all together. It's so nice to work with a good creative director. But that's also what's confusing, is sometimes I feel like my profession falls between illustrator, creative. Sometimes I'm asked to do more like creative direction work and animation, and sometimes it's like I'm trying to do too much with it all because they haven't like formally given me that responsibility, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of a strange thing where it becomes your baby, but then they're changing things. And your role in it is a bit of a grey area because you can do all of those things, but it's not been set up at the front.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets a bit confusing. I don't know if that's an industry pet peeve or a specific pet peeve that I have with my relationship with certain people, but in terms of the people working in the industry, I've had only good experiences of other designers, of animators. I think people are pretty nice. Probably one of the nicer industries you can work. I mean, you get egos in every industry, you can't avoid it. I'd say it doesn't happen. Maybe it happens more in graphic design than it does in illustration animation. But like, for example, I go to some like animation festivals and things like Pixelplasma is one of my favorite in Berlin, and you go there and everyone is just the sweetest person ever. They like art, they like socializing, and they're just like, there's no egos really compared to fashion, photography, a lot of these other creative industries where the egos are much bigger. I think because the more clout there is in the industry, the more it attracts people who clout. In fashion and photography, there's celebrities involved and things like this, and so people are in it to be cool. And they don't care about anything beyond that, which is fine, but it's not fine when you have to work with those people and they don't give a shit.
And like, if you are doing it just because you want to like be cool or whatever, like you have to work so hard to get there. You could probably choose a different avenue than animation and 3D and whatnot.
Exactly.
Because I found that, I remember even when I was starting out, if I would reach out to people whose work that I really liked, they would 9 times out of 10 give me feedback or advice and support, and I just found it was so supportive. Like, most supportive community. Everyone wants people to do well. That's what I feel like I get from it.
I feel the same for sure.
It doesn't feel like people are really competing with each other. People aren't they're not like gatekeeping to like give themselves an advantage or anything. People are just like, well, I guess it's because you never feel like, unless you're like head to head pitching on the same job, it never really feels like someone's taking your job.
Like there's enough to go around. Which is really good. And in terms of like the future for you, what is how do you see your work evolving? Maybe
good question. I don't know. I like to feel it out. I like to feel it out because I think that all the good decisions I've made with my style going forward have just been making stuff very instinctually, like, and if I feel whenever I like see something that I think looks cool and I'm like, I'm going to try that in my work, it doesn't work because I'm just trying to recreate something and I don't feel any like the accidental sort of oh, this is gonna like the posters were a great way to try things out and push into new territory in a kind of structured way, because I would just try things on the fly and then if something works, then it works and you start doing it in other stuff. But I find it difficult to like plan the next phase or like think about what I want to do. I do have some fun ideas for like VR games that I would like to do, but I feel the barrier of learning all that is just like what you're saying about personal projects is, I think I would like to, on a more general thing, I would like going forward to like make more personal projects. It's been a while since I've actually done anything personal, like posters and record covers sometimes feel like they're personal work, but they're kind of not, because they are answering a bit of a brief. But I want to get into the headspace of just make like work to be shown or like displayed or like an exhibition space or stuff like that. So that's kind of what I hope that I can have more time to do. And especially I like the idea of doing games that that are like public art games rather than like a game that you download and play alone on your computer. I know you're supposed to not talk about personal projects before you started them, because then you get all this joy of completing them without. But like, for example, I've got this game idea, which hopefully no one steals my genius idea that I've come up with. But the idea is that it's a VR game, but you are a dog, and in order to play the game, you have to actually crawl on the ground on all fours. And if you stand up, all the people are like going, no, sit, no. So you're like trapped on all fours by the game mechanics. And the idea would be that it's like you play it in like a room, so you actually have to crawl around, and like that's the mechanic.
Okay.
And I just
funny.
think
that's wicked.
yeah. So there's like an idea that it's a tenuous idea, but I think the mechanic is funny.
Sorry to interrupt. Does it feel like it's hard to achieve to get to that stage? Like,
I don't know what the hell to do.
No, I know, but it's crazy. If you have a vivid imagination, like I'm already picturing the space that you're in, everyone walking around. I'm like, it's done.
Yeah.
You've made the thing because you've pictured it. But
yeah.
I guess there is actually a lot of stages.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Like I've already started thinking about the mechanics of it. I don't know when I'm going to get time to even learn. I'm going to use Unity, not Unreal is not great for VR apparently. But I need to put at least a week of just getting the basics down. I think even just like getting it so that mechanic is like, it detects the height of the headset and all this stuff. I don't know where to begin with that stuff.
Would collaborating with someone who already knows this stuff be a thing?
Yeah.
For you? Or
potentially.
To learn
it would be cool to know it myself a bit as well, but I hate coding. I don't have a very mathematical brain, sadly.
But it does feel like, if you worked with someone else, like that takes some of the burden away, plus you can learn from them and get there faster.
Yeah, I probably should do that. That is what I should do. But I'm one of those people that likes doing everything myself.
No, I'm saying this. I'm like, I try and work out every detail on my own. But that's wicked.
But that's something I want to do. I want to do a bit, just drawing for joy, like enjoying the process. I'm quite a believer in like the art I like the most in my life is art where you can tell someone's just making it in a very pure way. And I'm not a fan of like conceptual projects too much, like in terms of like you start with the idea and then you respond to your own idea because you have something you want to say. Like I don't enjoy that kind of work in the same way that I enjoy the message is self-evident by the person who's made it. Do you know what I mean? I saw a film of my friend Peter Millard.
Got it.
He's a tutor as well at Kingston and a friend. And he does he does hand-drawn like 2D animation, and it's like one frame and he draws the next. And it's very like, what's the word? It's almost like primal, and it's kind of, he's just making it and he doesn't have an idea. And then when you watch it, you just understand his mind and like the way he thinks, and then you create your own narrative from it.
Right.
But it's super raw. It's really like childlike. It's like a big, it's like childlike. It's like play, but then I like you just only need a few details of the artist, and then your brain starts trying to connect things. Like the animation that he showed was like, I don't know, boots stepping on things that explode, and then like everything's being ripped up, and there's like hilarious sound effects going with it, and you're like laughing out loud, but it feels like a fever dream. And even when I was watching it, I started thinking about like things in my life, and it just invented the meaning for me by watching it. And it's because it's so honest. I think if he had been like, I'm going to make a film about like anxiety, it completely would have undone any opportunity to make the film about you. Do you know what I mean? If you're told
what you're meant to feel,
what you're meant to feel. And I always really enjoy like in galleries, like artist retrospectives for that reason, because when you get a solo show, often there's like at the gallery or like write up like what the work is about. And there will be like they tend not to even talk about the artist that much unless it's in like a sort of self-glorifying way. It was like there's this video essay guy who I kind of like, even though he's a bit of a troll, called Bad Tramel, and he does this whole essay on art speak and like how the writing in galleries often will be like the artist has successfully decolonized the space, and you're like, you telling me how successfully this project has gone is like, that's for me to make up. Or whether it's decolonized the space at all should be open for interpretation, whatever that even means. And so I love retrospectives because it tells you a lot about their life, and like you just understand where they grew up, were their parents rich or poor, like what happened to them, maybe they had a trauma, this happened, and then it doesn't connect any of that stuff to the work. Then you see the work and you're looking at a painting that's got nothing to do with that stuff, but you know that happened to the person, and you're like, oh, I can see that in their work. And I kind of, for me, that's like the joy of it, is you working it out, and it might be wrong and you might be reading into it incorrectly, but making that link in your own head makes it memorable and also engaging.
Yeah, for sure. Rather than having the work done for you, kind of, and like telling you what it is.
Yeah. And then
there's no discovery for yourself. It's just looking at the result of that.
Yeah. And it's often very like gallery sanctioned ideas and themes, you know. It's like, oh, these are the kind of topics that art should be speaking about right now because we need to get people through the door.
Right.
So that's a different thing altogether. But
I do agree with you about like having the context of the artist is like the most exciting bit. Like when you go to a gallery and then you just take a picture of that little blurb, and then later on you go home and you research all the intricacies of their life, and then everything then just brings on a whole new meaning, and that's like the most beautiful part, isn't it? It's like getting into the hood, like what's actually going on in their psyche, or like how old were they when they created it, and like how long did they live, and all of that. I find that really, really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And all my most memorable shows I've been to have had an element of that in it, even if it's a boring detail or something seemingly innocuous, you know. Like I really liked the Rodin one that he did it, I think it was at the Tate, where he had all his like plaster, like the fragments of plaster and stuff, and just reading that he like his career didn't start until he was in his 40s, and before then he just worked in like a kind of a manufacturing thing where they would like make ultra realistic stuff, so he got this like craft skill. And then his like first show, he made a 1-for-1 statue of someone, and everyone accused him of like cheating in some way because it was so accurate. So then he like never made a 1-to-1 again, so no one could ever accuse him of cheating.
Wow, that's so interesting.
But like I like those like little nuggets, you know, and then you're like, this is a guy that cares about that kind of integrity in some. I can't remember what the point of this entire spiel was.
It was about
it was about like what I was going to do next. But I guess the thing is I want to trust my instincts, because that's what I enjoy in other people's work. And
that makes total sense.
Like finding projects through playing rather than through
concepts,
or like deciding too much.
I'm really the opposite in the way that I work on my personal stuff. I will literally, maybe it will be some sort of thought that I've had, like cycling or whatever, and I'll make a note of it, and it will then turn into a very like literal concept of like, how can I then visualize that? And I really enjoy the process of making something that's just a literal representation of a concept that I've scribbled. But it's also interesting to think of it as just being more loose than that. But
Yeah.
that's I find it a good way to give myself like a mini brief for my own personal work.
Yeah.
Same, but I do really like that thing about bringing play into like personal projects in general. It's just something that I forget to do, and gotta get that in.
Yeah, I guess it's because totally everyone has to find the way that works for them, and not everyone's minds work the same. But I guess when I think about it, I'm like what I was saying earlier, when I was making those like PowerPoint animations and stuff, I wasn't thinking at all what I wanted to make, because I was like a child. I was like, I had nothing to say. I just did it, and then it's so fun to make the work in that state. If you can get into it, it's a really hard place to get into, but then that's, I guess, what when I see that in other people's work, I feel inspired to work, because it's something I want to be tapping into. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It couldn't be more liberating to just like see what's happened, like not even thinking about what you're doing and just doing for the fun of it.
Yeah, but maybe for you, the coming up with the concept is the play part. You know, you're like thinking. For an idea to really click with you, you've probably tossed out many ideas in your mind already up until that point, and you've like subconsciously started this journey of like wanting to find something, and then that part is, and then once you have the brief, then you're executing the idea.
The play definitely comes in just like the sitting and thinking with just silly thoughts, and be like, oh, I wonder what that would look like if I make it in like 3D.
And everyone's like, what are you doing? You're like, playing.
To be honest, that is me. I'm just a massive daydreamer. But then like,
that's great.
And that's my fun time. But then obviously I find that the feeling of play is a bit more difficult when you're actually with 3D software, because you have to have some sort of structure, otherwise you just obviously just endlessly fuck around, but to make something that actually will turn into something that I find the play in software way more difficult than the play in physical tactile elements.
That's so true. I find that so typical as well, to kind of just remember to have fun while you're on the program, because at the same time you're just finding so many this isn't looking how I wanted it, and then you get caught up in that world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but with anything that where it's technical and you have to just see it through, and it takes time. Animation takes time. 3D takes time. You have to you have to just commit to it. And I'm saying all this like about play and stuff, but for sure, like in the middle of it, there's a bit where like, I just need to animate this stuff happening now. And I'm not doing any experimentation. It just has to happen. And I just have to trust that I still think there's value in executing what, you know,
and maybe
me a month ago had this idea, and I have to remember that was worth something.
Yeah, definitely. And then thinking of, how good it's going to feel once it's done. Like also, it's maybe the entire process isn't going to be like flowers and daydreaming.
I also think there's like something is another thing that I like think I should do, but I don't always do. But when I've made a big body of work in one go, and it's worked for me, is to not post something as soon as it's done, and try and use the energy. I mean, like on social media, and try and use the energy you've got from the back of it to make more of that. And don't share any of it until you completely run out of steam, because the second you share it, it's done. And then for some reason, you've already got the feedback on it, and everyone's like, oh, great job. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you're like, now what I'm going to do. But if you hold it back and then you go, I'm going to make another one of those because I'm already in the mindset of making it. And then you go, I'll make a third or a fourth, and I'll only post them once I really can't bring myself to make any more.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Because like,
I think that's really smart.
I think I've been doing the opposite. I've been like trying to share the process as I go along as well, because I don't know why. I think it was because I also wanted to get a bit of input from other people.
But do you find it works for you? Like, you think it's good?
I'm not sure yet. I'm just trying it out. I think that one side of it was also like this idea that we always have to be kind of, I don't know, being consistent with social media and posting and all that, which I don't love. But then I think part of the pressure that I was putting on myself was because our work takes so much time, you just can't be posting all the time. but I also kind of do want to have that sharing of my work and process and stuff. So that's why I've kind of thought, well, let's try this other version out, which is where I kind of take people along the ride with me. But it's true that it's dangerous because you can feel that like instant satisfaction of like, I've done this, and then you feel weirdly like you have. But I don't feel like that quite yet, because I've been thinking of next steps. Like I think it has been helping me to kind of stay motivated. And actually the input from other people has been really cool, as I got lots of people sending me references and telling me like if I wanted to use AI, how, like tricks and stuff like that.
That's
which is
cool.
cool.
It is really useful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that stuff is really valuable as well. And I always share my client projects like as soon as they're live and all this stuff. And I have to be honest, like back when I was making work in my spare time, I would post everything all the time in like Tumblr days. And like, I would definitely be like addicted to like posting my stuff on Tumblr and like trying to get it blowing up. And like, it was like that process also worked quite well for me, but I was doing faster work. It was like, a lot of it was like vector drawings and, but the knives one that I talked about earlier was the first one where I was like, I'm not going to post any of this until they're all done. So it was like a year. And so I was going back to some of the early ones where like the style had changed and like making them work all as a set before I posted any of them, because it like once you post it, it's like, that's it, it's done.
So it's done. That's so interesting. Did you sorry, tell.
But yeah, that for me worked when I did that. And then when I started the VR thing, I knew I wanted to do something the same. So I started doing all these like people, and then I turned it into like a mixed series thing later. But I made them all, I think like 10 or 11 before I started posting any of them.
I think that's really cool, because then you're not doing it because you're seeking validation. You're doing it for the joy of it, and then you'll get the reward later on when people are obviously responding.
It was
positively.
more as well so that I could, like, if I learned something on the final one, I could go back to the first one and change it still, so that they worked as a set. And like the whole thing was like an investigation rather than just like each one posting. But yeah, I don't do that all the time. I've just done it on a few projects. I think that's what I'm craving doing again now, is like working on something and just secretly in the background for a while and enjoying it. Yeah, I guess it's like what you said, not with zero validation for any of it.
And maybe to wrap it up as well, we were thinking of asking you as well, if you have any advice for youngers or people starting out in the industry, what would that advice look like?
Wow, it's hard. It's hard because sometimes you're like the era that you blew up in or that you became successful, it can't be replicated now. Things have already changed too much. Do you know what I mean? And like when I started to get into this, there was less competition from other people making 3D work, for sure. Like I got some really great jobs that I think if the market was so flooded with designers as it is now, I might not have got, because there would be so many people doing it. Like the barrier to entry on 3D is like so low now, which is amazing. But it's meant the standard is crazy. Like there are like 18-year-olds making stuff that looks like insane quality. So I guess the only advice I could give is to be like true to your, like find out what your unique thing is. I think that's the one thing that has worked for me, is like, oh, what's the one thing I do that other people don't do? And I think I identified that as being something to do with like having a sense of humor in the work, and also like my kind of colors and things that I pick. I was kind of like, okay, so I kind of gonna lean into like the art direction of the color and the form, and also into making sure everything is like got humor underneath it. And then I was like, a sort of unintentional rule I made for myself was kind of like, if I'm going to do something darker, it has to offset itself with funniness, so that it feels engaging rather than just like bleak or too cool. I think I also worry about my work being inaccessible in its trying to seem cool. I try and always offset. If I do something, I'm like, it's trying too hard, then I really don't say well. But yeah, my point is, I guess, like, find your path of least resistance
Love that.
is the way to go. Because anyone can learn technical skills, and I feel like technical skills are the thing that disappears the fastest with new technology.
That's
like
true.
I know lots of people who are in VFX who are now unemployed because AI is consuming the VFX industry. And the ones who will survive are the people who were like directors, or like on the side they were like art directors and stuff, because they have a vision for things, you know.
That's true. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that
100%.
totally. Okay. Well, it's been so nice
Thank
chatting
you
with
so
you.
much for
Been a
I
pleasure.
feel like we've
coming
had so
over,
much
yeah.
we could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Joe.
First one.
I
What
know.
a privilege.
I know. How exciting. Thanks so much for listening to this episode.
if you're enjoying the podcast so far, we'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe on your favorite platform, be it Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're tuning in from.
We can't wait to share the next episode with you. Bye for now.